The Dominica Electricity Services DOMLEC and the government of Dominica could begin arbitration for $100 million in July for changes made to the Electricity Supplies Act. That's according to General Manager of DOMLEC, Colin Cover. The changes made to the Electricity Supplies Act reduces DOMLEC's license from 25 to 15 years.
We are not taking the government to court. We have asked the government to meet us in arbitration, which is different from taking us to court. Now, what has happened, though, is that the government has now filed in the High Court to prevent the arbitration movement from going forward. So, in fact, the government has taken DOMLEC to court, but we did not really take. In response to our taking them to requesting an arbitration process, they have now taken us to court to cease the arbitration process. Okay, so that is where we are. I think we have the first hearing is in July. Unfortunately, I can't remember what date. About middle of July will be the first hearing. But their attorneys have been speaking with our attorneys so far.
General Manager of DOMLEC, Colin Cover. CARICOM Chairman Prime Minister Roosevelt Skerrit says the region has made a case for disbarment of funds from the European Union to be reviewed. Prime Minister Skerrit says the matter was discussed in Spain on Monday when heads met for the EU CARIFORUM summit in Spain.
Of course, we also raised the matter with the European Union in respect to the slowness in the disbursement of funds. In some cases, we would have done everything required by us in terms of the financing agreement. But because of the rules governing the European Union funds, it can be a very protracted period of time. And it's not only within the CARIFORUM region, but of course in Latin American region, you also have those challenges. So, but all in all, I think it's an opportunity to renew our commitment to the relationship, to hear from the European Union in terms of how they see themselves being able to assist us even further as we try to grapple and confront the present global economic challenges.
And that's CARICOM Chairman Prime Minister Roosevelt Skerrit. Deputy Leader of the United Workers' Party, Claudia Sanford, says the vacating of 2 seats held by the UWP is an opportunity for the Constitution and laws of Dominica to be tested. Attorney General Francine Baron-Royer confirmed yesterday that the Marigot and Salisbury seats are now vacant and that plans for by-election are on the way. However, Sanford told Kairi News that the power the electorate has in electing their members of parliament is being neglected.
Well, basically, I would just like to say that the situation as it is now with the Speaker of the House and vacating of the seat is an opportunity for the Constitution and the laws of Dominica to be tested, because it's really and truly the first time that such an event is happening on our Parliament. So I'm of the opinion that the situation calls for a test of the Constitution and so on. But what we see happening now is that a superficial interpretation of the law is what is coming forward from that of the AG. And the implied interpretation, which is really and truly what the Constitution is there to do, to protect the rights of the people and the adult suffrage of people, their vote, the power of the vote now is being neglected by some of the utterances coming from the AG and others like Tony Asperson and even the Speaker of the House itself. Because if the Speaker of the House has the authority, as that according to the standing orders, to vacate the seats of members, then it would mean that the power of the vote that the electorate have in electing the members of parliament would totally be overruled. So I believe taking it to the court and having the court decide is a way of setting the precedent, and for the first time in such an event is happening in Dominica, and not only in Dominica but in the region as a whole. You know, some of the outcomes of that would mean well for the forward direction of our electoral system and our parliament.
According to Sanford, the United Workers' Party will continue its boycott when Parliament meets for the 4th sitting on May 25th.
Well, with the 4th sitting of Parliament, again, is another mockery, because what you see is that there is a field of thought, and if you really look at what is happening, that the Speaker acted in haste, and as a result, some of the procedures outlined was not followed. So the 4th Parliament is, to me, is nothing but a mockery and an attempt to make what they did wrong right, and I just see no reason why we should, cancel the boycott. I think the boycott is legitimate in the circumstance of what is about, the unfairness of the election, calling for new voters' ID and the clean up of the voters. I think that is legitimate, and the protest is a worthy cause. So I see no reason why the opposition should, attend the 4th Parliament. I think it's just an attempt for the House and the Speaker to do what they did wrong right, because by right, the motion would have to be moved in Parliament asking, that the seats be vacated and all that stuff, all the procedural part, which they totally turn a blind, exercising their arrogance and power. And I believe they're just trying to make it right.
Deputy Leader of the United Workers' Party, Claudia Sanford, Maritime Parliamentary Representative for Roseau Central, Norris Prevost, says the decision rests with the High Court to declare whether a seat should be made vacant or not.
That is the Constitution, and you can get the President's statement and you will see exactly his advice to Parliament. Any differing opinion is wrong and outside of the Constitution. In fact, the only other person who can vacate a seat from the House of Parliament is the member himself.
Parliamentary Representative for Roseau Central, Norris Prevost. In more news tonight, a former Carib chief says funds to address the housing crisis in the Carib territory are not forthcoming. Councillor Masclem Frederick says though repair works are currently being done to some houses, there is a serious housing crisis in the area. He says 95% of the houses in the Carib territory is in urgent need of repair.
At this time we are renovating some houses in the Caribbean territory, and we have all the villages being covered at this present moment. We have already done about 50 houses, but as I said, there's plenty more to be done, and the finance is not forthcoming. We are trying our best to meet those who are really in need and to see what we can do for others. But as I said, we are still pending on the government for some more money to finish the project. The survey that we made, partly 95% of the Carib people really need it. Some of them are not saying anything, but they really need it. At this present moment, I think there's a crisis, a housing crisis in the Carib territory, because I think the last survey that we made, 95% of the people really are in need of the housing renovation. Some of the houses at this point in time, they just need complete renovation. The whole house needs a complete building, new building. And I would say about 45% of the housing in the Carib territory are just like that.
Former Carib Chief Councillor Masclem Frederick. India's High Commissioner to Dominica, His Excellency Malay Mishra, says Dominica is expected to benefit from several areas of mutual cooperation with his country. He told a press conference today that these areas identified once approved by government through the signing of an MOU which will seek to boost the micro, small and medium-term business sector.
We have identified a few areas for activating our cooperation. These areas are primarily small industries, agriculture, ICT. You can call them the three pillars of our cooperation, which we have identified. On the small industry side, there was a visit of a delegation of the National Small Industries Corporation of India, which is the Government of India agency under the Ministry of Micro, Small and Medium Enterprises. They had visited Dominica in January this year, and they had interacted with both the government as well as the private sector. They have proposed a memorandum of understanding between NSIC, this body, and its counterpart body in Dominica for boosting the micro, small and medium enterprises sector. We feel that this is a very appropriate area of development of Dominica's economy, and this has several components in it. The NSIC, if this MOU is finalized, and we hope that it should be finalized soon from the Dominican side.
His Excellency Mishra says the India is successful in the agro and small manufacturing area should be replicated for Dominica's development.
We would want to replicate some of our successes in the small sector for the development of Dominica, particularly in the agro area, agro and small manufacturing area, because we feel that given the economies of scale for this country, it is very appropriate to concentrate on the small part of it, that we start small and we put our strengths and expertise, and NSIC will come with their experts and the technologies which they have developed, and it is for the Dominican side to identify the areas and in those areas bring in technologies from India, and it will be a transfer of technology with machineries coming, experts to handle those machineries coming and giving training